Hello, dear book dragons. Happy June. I hope you had some really good reads in May. I had a lovely May. I finished my school, my singing year. Tomorrow I start working full time again, which feels kind of weird to do that again. But I've had a really nice May. We had our last concert, and that was fantastic. We made it like a theater. It was not only singing, we were acting, and it was just so fun. And after that, I've had quite a lot of free time, so I've been reading a lot. I read 9 books in May. But before I start talking about the books, I want to show you a really lovely, beautiful find. Do you see that? A find? Treasure. I found this beautiful teapot. Bluebells are my favorite kind of flower. So I already have a teapot with bluebells on. It's quite small. So when I saw this in the secondhand shop, I was like, oh, I need one. I need this too, a little bit bigger one for when I have more than one guest. I usually don't use a teapot just for me because I do a cup. But yeah, maybe I'll just use it anyway because it's so pretty. My other one is very pretty too. So yeah, that was my new teapot. And yeah, the books. So this is most of the books I've read, but I had 2 more because there are library books. And this is the first 2 books. And in April I started reading the Paladin's Faith books by T. Kingfisher. So now I read the last 2. So that's Paladin's Hope and Paladin's Faith. Oh yeah, I said wrong. So the first one is called the first one is called Paladin's Grace. Yes. I think I liked the first one a lot, and I really liked the third one. So Paladin's Hope is about a doctor, a leash doctor. I don't know exactly what it means. I haven't looked it up. But he works with dead people, so I guess that's what it means. He looks up how they died, if they were killed, stuff like that. So he's living quite an isolated life. He lives in the same city as the other books have said. And so we do meet the paladins we met before, and now we also meet a new paladin, Galen. And Galen and a little gnole, which we meet in the other books, and I forgot to mention them in my April video. It's horrible because the gnolls are the most funny part of these series. They're I don't know exactly how they look like. They're kind of small animal-like race. And they talk very cute, very sweet. They talk of themselves in like third person. And unfortunately, they're not very respected by humans. So when this gnoll, who is a constable, finds someone murdered, his colleague doesn't really listen to him. So that's why he goes to Galen, and the paladin is also with them when they found the body. And he also goes to Piper, the doctor. And he's so funny. Because he has a very strong sense of smell, he can sense immediately that Galen and Piper are attracted to each other, but they don't really want to show it themselves, as humans are. It's very funny, and I would say it's more adventurous than the other books. They have to leave the city to find the murderer. There are several murdered people, and they're murdered in very strange ways. So they're really wondering what is going on. And they come to this old mansion there's a man living. He's very strange, and he shows them like a underground maze, you could say, where he lures them in. And yeah, I shouldn't say so much about them if you want to read it, but it's interesting because right now I'm reading another series by T. Kingfisher. It's called The Clockwork Boys. And in this book, in The Paladin's Hope, we, for the first time, they are talking about Clockwork Boys. And so it's interesting to read the Clockwork books. They're kind of, they're not demons, but they're made demons, maybe? I'm not really sure. But this maze, they have to go through this maze to survive. So it's a lot of adventure, you could say. And I really liked it, and I really liked the romance between Piper and Colin. And I really liked this node, which I've forgot the name of. So I gave that 4.8 stars. And after that, I immediately read Paladin's Faith, which is the last book. Well, I assume it's the last book. I really thought it was the last book. I'm not really sure if it is, because I find some things are not really done yet. Because, as I said in my last video, in this world, these paladins that all connect to each other, their god died. And you get, in the third book, you get like hints, like, oh, we're gonna get to know how their god died and why. And because this Piper, the doctor, he's not just an ordinary doctor. He has some kind of magic. When he touches a dead body, he can sense how they died. He can kind of see the last moment. Yeah, maybe I'm saying too much now about the god, but so I really thought at the end of the third book, now in next book we will get to know why the god died, and in the fourth book they don't mention it at all. Well, maybe they mention it, but we don't get to know. So I was really disappointed about that. In the fourth book, we get to meet Margaret the spy, which we also met in the first book. But she was only like a friend in that book. But now she's the head person. She's a spy. She's trying to find a person who has made a salt machine. This person is in hiding because the big guys, the owners of the ships who are in control of the salts in their part of the world, won't be really happy if someone else can provide salts. So she kind of is working on her own. It's kind of strange because she used to, of course, work for a network, but now she's left that network and it's very complicated. I can't really explain everything. But she gets help from two paladins, Ren and Shane, and they go to the Court of Mist. So it's a new place. It's kind of a palace. There's no king living there. It's just a lot of wealthy, rich people going around gossiping. She hopes to find some clue to where this person is. It was romantic, as all these books are. It was romantic, but not as romantic as I would have liked. It was a little bit too. Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that romance, actually. And there were no Knowles in this book, so I only gave it 4.2 stars. Very disappointing. But the story was fine. It was fine, and some things that was really interesting, that now we actually get to meet a demon, which they're talking about in the third book, or maybe in all books, really, about demons in this world. Most of the demons are in this world inhabited animals, so they're easy to find because demons don't really know how to move, and animals don't usually speak, so it's easy to find. But if there's an old clever demon, they can hide in a person, and that can be really dangerous. So that's an interesting part of this book, that we do get to meet a clever demon, obviously. Yes, that was those two books. And then I read a book I've been waiting to read, and that is The Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton. So I read this is like the second book in the series, even if they're all standalones, but they connected, you could say. And this is about the professor Elodie Tarrant. She's a professor of magical geography, you could say, in Oxford. And it is a very funny book. It's very romantic. It's quite silly. I had this as my traveling book. I think I want to reread it at home where I can concentrate better to really enjoy it more. You could say this is instead of enemies to lovers, this is a lovers to enemies to lovers book. Yeah. So she does marry. In the beginning of the book, she explains how kind of accident she marries this other professor who she's been in love with for ages. When she hears him complain about that he can't move in, he can't stay or move in where he wants to live if he's not married. And she's like, oh, but I could marry you. Then maybe I will be more accepted as a professor. So they both kind of gain of it. And they have a very nice first 2-3 days together, and then they manage to miscommunicate, and they kind of hate each other and avoid each other for a year or two or something like that. But so in this book, there is a magical disaster in Wales, and she is she's going there. She's supposed to go there with her assistant, and on the way on the train she meets her husband, who's also been called there because they have the same last name. They're both Professor Tarrant because they're married. And she doesn't want to be in the same place as him. And of course, in this little village in Wales where they're going, there are a lot of crazy tourists who want to see this dangerous phenomenon. So there's only one room, so they have to stay in the same room. Yeah, you understand. It's all her books are really cute. There are more depth to them than you would think, because they're complicated beings, and they're really sweet. They're angry, can't really communicate, and at the same time so cute. They're just a delight. Masterful delights. I give it 4.8 stars. I don't know. Well, I could have just give it 5, really. I think if I'll read it again in a slower space, in my quiet place, I'll give it 5. Yes. And I really enjoy the magic. I mean, this is a new thing that there is. In her first series, there's these witches who has magic, these flying houses and stuff. But in this series, they are not even mentioned, even if you actually get to meet them very quickly if you're reading closely. But in this book, it's just the nature that has magic, and it's really dangerous. And magical artifacts can make the nature magic even more dangerous. So, yeah, read it. Then I came back to this tea Room Cozy Mystery, which I also read in April. So this, I guess, must be the second book. Or something like that. Oh, it doesn't matter. I read T is for Toxin and T is for Tragedy. Yes, it's the second and the third. I have the fourth waiting for me. As you can see, they're really thin. I read this book in one day. I think I have to check. Yeah, Tears for Trouble, the first one, I gave 4 stars. I gave this one 3.8, so a little bit less. It's still interesting mystery, still a very fun ghost chef, but she's still talking about tea, but she didn't give us more special how you make this kind of tea in this way or that way. But in the first book, she explains a lot about tea, which are less in this and even less in the third, I think. Well, similar, but so, and in this book, oh yeah, she's having her birthday party. Well, I can't really say more than that. If you want something really easy about a strong woman and strange murders, which you don't really get to solve them that easy. So that's good. A good thing about these books. And the third book is T is for Tragedy. I gave this even less stars, 3.5 stars. Where is an old murder that comes to light, and she of course gets involved and wants to help solve it. I wrote here 2 little descriptions of how to make tea. Yeah, I haven't done any drawings in my book diary. The only thing I've done is a little tea. So, but I have these gorgeous little beautiful stickers instead. And yes, after that I read Flora Leah's, I have to check what it's called in English, The Secret Book of Flora Leah by Patty Callahan Henry, which I bought on the sale. We have this big book sale in Sweden in February every year, so this has been waiting for me for a while. And I saw darling Desi reading this book and loving it, and I was like, oh, I should read it. I gave it 4 stars, so I did like it. It's a cozy and quite sad book about 2 sisters. It's Flora Leah is the missing sister who goes missing during the Second World War. What was the name of the older sister? Oh, Hazel. Hazel is 14 years old, and she and her young sister, I think, is only like 6 or something. No, she's 5. They, of course, can't stay in London during the Blitz, so they're shipped off to Oxford, on the countryside of Oxford, and stays with this lovely family. And I read quite a lot of books about children during the Second World War, and this is the first time I've heard that when they come to a place, grown-ups go there and just look at the children and say, oh, I picked that one. I was like, oh, that's really, I mean, that's horrible. For some, good for some, obviously. I think one of my favorite books ever is Goodnight, Mr. Tom, and it's not the same there, but that's a children's book, so maybe that's why. But in that book, this Tom, this old lovely man, well, they knock on his door and said, take care of this boy. So it's not, so it's different there. I don't know, maybe it was different in different places, and maybe that one was sweet enough because it's a kid's book. apparently it was also called the Pied Piper something, which is weird because the Pied Piper, he lured children after him and left the city. And that's a horrible story, all the children leaving their parents. So when the English, well, the whole, I can't find the words in English, when the project of sending all these kids out in the countryside was called the Pied Piper Project, something like that, and which is kind of weird if you think about it. The children were sent away, but were sent away to be taken care of, right? Not to die. But yes, Hazel's little sister Floria disappears, and they're staying there for several years, and they are staying in this lovely family, a boy and his mother, and Hazel falls in love with this boy, and all her grown-up life she feels is her fault that her sister disappeared because she was too obsessed with this boy, and they maybe left her for like 5 minutes. She was sleeping by the river, and so when they never find her, they assume the river took her. But in this book, she's now grown up. You get to follow her as a child, and in the 60s when she's grown up, and she works at this lovely bookshop, and she's leaving it to work at Sainsbury's. No, sorry, no, not Sainsbury's. A very famous place where you can sell interesting stuff. It doesn't matter, but on her last day at work, she finds this amazing book, a storybook, which describes the stories she told her sister exactly when they were children. And they never told anyone else these stories. So she, of course, is really shocked. She takes this book home without telling anyone at work. So she gets kind of, yes, that is kind of stupid, right? So a lot of things go wrong. But so most of this book is about trying to find the author of the book, to see if she is her sister, and her boyfriend who wants to marry her. She still has feelings for the boy she met when she was 14. So it's a lot of complicated stories. This is a beautiful book, and sad, and I get a bit frustrated at her, at Hazel. Several reasons. I mean, it's not strange if most of your life faults, it's your fault something happens, that your life is a little bit complicated. Yeah, but you can still get frustrated at that. I'll stop talking about this book, but it's also interesting details about Oxford and Lewis Carroll, because apparently he stayed in this little village. There's this holy spring there, like, which inspired him for something in Alice in Wonderland. So this, I would say, it's really interesting in many ways. I read it. I have another book about her, from her, which is about Lewis Carroll, actually. No, sorry, no. I mean, the guy who wrote Narnia. Sorry, that's saying wrong. But he also lived in Oxford, as you know. So I'm rambling now. I'll stop talking about this book. Read it. After that, I read a totally different kind of book. I read also a book about the Second World War, but very different. Und den brinnande himmel, it's called in Swedish. I think it's called, yes, Beneath a Scarlet Sky by Mark Sullivan. I've had this waiting for me for a year. I've heard it's really, really good, and it was. I gave this 5 stars. It is a devastating book to read, so don't read it if you're sensitive. Whew, which I am. So you could obviously do it, but it was 17-year-old young boy called Pino in Milano, and the war's been going on for 2 years, but he's still living his normal life as best as he can. But there are a lot of bombing of Milano, of the English and the Americans. So his parents are, they're afraid of him dying, obviously. So they send him up to the mountains where he used to go as a kid. So he knows the mountains there very, very well. So it's like a school there. It's a priest who has this school, and he tells him it's kind of immediately when he gets there that my plan for you is to start taking long walks in the mountains every day. He doesn't explain why. He just tells him you're going to take these long walks to this place and that way, for hours. And I think he does that maybe only 2 weeks or something when he tells him why. Because of course this lovely priest helps Jewish people and other people to leave Italy to Switzerland, because it's just at the border. And he says yes to doing that. He's a lovely boy. And this, sorry, I forgot to say that this is based on a true story. Imagine a 17-year-old boy doing this all on his own, actually. He's no grown-ups with him. Taking these people who has no experience of walking in the mountains at all. And he does it for months. And I mean, the author of this book, he explains in the beginning that some things he has changed to make it more dramatic, and it doesn't explain which things, but you're really like, what are you doing? How is this going to go? That part of the book is amazing to read. His younger brother, who's 14-year-old, he also starts taking these people leaving Italy. So after a while, he's not on his own. The younger boys helps as well, because he can't do it all on his own, because there's so many people getting there. And the Gestapo is kind of, they know, but they have this system where they can see when they're near or not near and stuff. But suddenly his parents want him to come home again. So suddenly a whole new part of his life starts, which is totally different, because in Italy there are the Nazis, but then there are also the Italian, what's it called in English? I don't really know, but their own dark police. Well, it doesn't really matter. I think you know it was kind of complicated in Italy with their crazy leader. He gets to meet him, actually. It's a lot of amazing things that happen in this book. It's so many crazy, amazing things, because it's a teacher. No. Yeah, anyway. Because he's going to be 18, he has to join this police he doesn't want to join. Or he can work with the Nazis, where he doesn't have to be sent away to another country to die. So his parents want him to join the Nazis, which he's been trying to work against for months, in the mountains. So he, of course, doesn't want to do that. But in the end, he does understand that he doesn't want to die. He doesn't want to be sent to another country to join the military. So he agrees, and because his parents have connections, they can join special young thing for. He doesn't really have to do anything dangerous stuff. But when he was up in the mountains, he had got a really, really good friend who is driving fast cars, and he taught him everything about driving and how cars work and stuff. And so one day when he gets home, he sees this Nazi car who's not working, and he can't help but get curious and help out, which gives him a job as the chauffeur of one of the leading Nazis in Italy, which wasn't what he was planning really. And his uncle, who works undercover, tells him, well, you have to take this job because then you can help us to, work as a spy against the Nazis. So again, he helps Italy to get free eventually. And thinking again that this is a true story, he did do that. He's 18 now, but he follows his boss, does everything for him, and his boss doesn't think so much about that he needs to eat and stuff. So he's not very nice to him. Sometimes he's nice to him, sometimes definitely not nice to him. It's very up and down. But he falls in love. Yes, he falls in love with a girl he actually did meet in the beginning of the book, and they had supposed to have a date. She didn't show up. He almost died in a bomb attack because of that, but he survived. And he meets her again with the Nazi's girlfriend's help. And they both fall in love. So it's also a love story, a very gripping and extremely sad love story. I can't say more than that. I'm not going to say more about this book because no video will get very long. But it was just so good, and some parts are just so horrible to read, because even when the war is over, people are still so hateful. They still destroy for each other just because they can. And this Italian, there's two different. So you have the Nazis, and then you have the Italian police force who is under the leader, and then they have the people working against them. So yeah, three different. And then when the Americans come, it's not like, oh, everything is happy. No, it's not. Yeah, I won't say more. Read it. It's one of the best books I read about Second World War. And after that, I needed to read something cute and not devastating. So I read one of my new books, Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess, and I loved it so much. I didn't know very much about this book. I just read about it and thought, oh, that sounds fun. A romantasy. I gave it 4.8 stars. It's about an Archduke Felix, who he's really not in power. It's his, I'm not sure who he is, his uncle? No, his dead wife's father, a duke something. He is really in power. He has this, what was his name? Felix under his foot all his life, kind of. And he decides to run away, and of course he runs away to the Witch Queen, because the Witch Queen is the enemy of himself, well, of his uncle. She assumes when he arrives that he is a dark wizard to help in her library. And he's been taught, because he is an archduke, he has had a good upbringing. He's learned a lot about literature and poetry and stuff like that. But I mean, he doesn't know any dark magic, obviously. But it's such a cute book, not because only because they fall for each other. It's also cute because the people working in her castle is so lovely. They are like different kind of magical beings, like trolls and ogres, but they're the sweetest, sweetest ogres and sweetest trolls ever, and gnomes, I think. And yeah, it was adorable. There are supposed to be, I think, 2 more books coming or already out. I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's like a found family and romantic, and he obviously, because he falls for her, he wants to tell her the truth about who he is, but he doesn't really dare because he is her enemy. Even if it's actually not him who is her enemy. Yeah. So if you want to read something very cute and romantic, and it's not spicy. So if you want to read something romantic that's not spicy, I don't think it is. Well, no, I don't remember. I don't think there are. Maybe it's like a fade to black or something. But yeah, it's mostly very cute. So, and look how pretty it is. So, now we're coming to the last book, which is The Count of Monte Cristo. The thickest classic book I've ever read. It's over 1,200 pages. And I started reading this in February because I borrowed it at the library, and it was only a 2-week loan. I was like, no way I'm going to finish this in 2 weeks. Started reading that book and realized I really liked it, so I decided to buy it, which I did, and I read other books in between. And then when I got that, I think I got to chapter 14 or something, or 15. I started reading it again. So I kind of read it in 3 different times, because when I came to the middle part, I kind of got a bit annoyed at it. This is, if you don't know the story, Alexandre Dumas. So it's a French, but I could have read it in Swedish, but I really like the Penguin. I really like this Penguin style. I really like the paper in Penguin. So I read it in English. I never read a classic that is so easy to read. I've seen so many people on YouTube talking about this book, raving about it, how good it is. So I just joined the choir. It is a great book. It is very easy to read. It is an adventure. Yes, there are several people. Yeah. And as I said, somewhere in the middle, it's a little bit frustrating because there's a lot of new stories suddenly. But you follow Edmond Dantes, who is a young man, 20-something, I think, in the beginning of the story. He's in love. He has a good job at a ship in Marseille, and he's just been given a higher job at that ship by his boss. So he's very happy, but he has a colleague who hates him, and his lovely fiancée is also loved by her cousin, Fernand. And so those 2 men hate him. And on the ship he works, on the way back to Marseille, his not his boss, because the boss is on land, but the boss on the ship dies, and before he dies he gives him this letter and said, you have to take this to Paris. And somehow this man on the ship who hates him hears about this letter, and I don't remember. Well, yeah, it doesn't matter. They plot together with his father's neighbor. Well, I think this neighbor tells them about the letter. It doesn't matter, but they manage to get him in jail because this letter is about Bonaparte. No, sorry. Oh yeah, yes. The called. Sorry. Yeah, he has nothing to do with the letter, but the letter. Yeah, he gets to jail. Before he gets to jail, he gets to meet this judge who reads the letter, and the letter is about his. Well, not about his father, but he knows he will affect his father, who is a follower of Bonaparte. And this is time when he was on Elba. So and anyone who's connected to him is put in jail. So very wrongly, Edmond Dantes is put on this island, and he's for 14 years in jail, and I don't remember how many years, or maybe I thought it was 20 years, and then I read 14 years. It's confusing. Many years anyway. And he, after a couple of years, he becomes friend with another prisoner who's next to him, who's been digging this big hole to escape, but he's dug the wrong way, so it comes to Edmund's room instead. But they become friends, and he kind of saves him from going crazy. He has this different stages of wanting to die, and then believing very strongly in God again, and want to have revenge and stuff. But when he meets this older man who's a very learned man, he teaches him different languages. He teaches him a lot of things. He teaches him medicine. He teaches him poisons, anything, and how to be a gentleman. And he manages to escape after this lovely old man dies, and everyone thinks he's dead. And that's how he becomes the Count of Monte Cristo, because this old man is talking about this big treasure he knows about, which nobody believes in, but he makes Edmund believe that it actually exists. So he manages, when he escapes, he managed to go there in different ways. He's very lucky there. He manages to get there, and he's not sure if he believes in the treasure, but he finds it, and it's a very big treasure. So after that, is this like a big time jump? It must be. And suddenly we're following two young Frenchmen on holiday in Italy, and that's why I got frustrated, because like, oh, now he's finally out of prison, now we got to know about the revenge, but suddenly we're not reading about him anymore. We're reading about these two young aristocrats from Paris, which are nice people. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, it's set during the 1840s. Something like that. Well, that's when the book was serialized anyway. You can read in the beginning of the book. There's a quite long introduction about the book and stuff, and the time of the period and stuff. Yeah. So that's when I started reading again, because I got frustrated that the story was only about someone else, and who was told a story about someone else. It was like a story and a story and a story, and I was like, why are you reading about this Italian thieves to a story about the Frenchman? I don't know who he is. So I stopped reading. I read a lot of other books, and then now, maybe 2 weeks ago, I guess, or something, I decided to finish it. And I went back in the story a bit, and I realized why we were following these young French people, because one of them, the son of Fernand, the evil guy who stole his fiancée. So I was like, that's fine. Because we do meet Edmund, who's now the Count of Monte Cristo. And he's also Sinbad the sailor. And he's obviously been traveling for a while. He's learned a lot of stuff. He's been away. So there is a time jump. And he gets to know these two young men. And he saves the life of one of them, even if I think it was a trap made up by him. Anyway, he's invited to Paris, and he meets them there, and you get to know all these three families who are now, his old enemies, who are now three families, where these men are now, older, and they have children who are in the 20s, and so his revenge is not only about these men, even it's all about their families, and it's fascinating and kind of horrible to think how he must scheme to really destroy them. And it's an interesting book. If you want to read a classic that's not just about love, because unfortunately I would say the love story is not so much as I thought it would be. He does see her old fiancé again, but because she's been married to his enemy for 20 years, it's kind of destroyed. The relationship is destroyed, which I feel was really sad, but maybe not so strange. And I would say, if you want to read a classic and you have time to read this thick book, but if you can read it like I did in different parts and take a break, or you could just take 20 minutes a day or something, or whatever you choose, and you will get through it eventually. And it's just very, very interesting book. And I don't usually write down quotes. I haven't written it down yet, but did find towards the end something he says that I thought was really wise about life. About how we can't compare things to others. Well, it felt kind of he's kind of, it feels like he's a little bit obsessed about God. He probably isn't, but he's always talking about his doing God's work. He feels that he has a right to destroy this man's life because they destroyed his life, and that God has sent him out in the world to do his job. So there's a lot of things you can discuss about this book. So that was the books I read in May, and I would love to hear what books you read and loved, and I'll see you in a month. Bye.